So in part 5 of our study skills series, we are going to look at matching questions. So the matching questions are ones where you will have a series of options on one side and a series of things to match them to on the other. Really common with terms and their definitions. Again, just like with fill in the blanks, which you could think of as a form of matching, your first step should be to count the number of options. If the number of terms you have to pick from is exactly the same as the number of things you need to match them to, you're probably going to use everything exactly once. In which case, as with fill in the blank, you go through, you do the easy, obvious ones first, and then you start chipping away at the less obvious ones. How do you chip away at the less obvious ones? Well, you classify them. You go through the list and say, do we have nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives? Do we have numbers mixed with letters? What do we have here? And which make the most sense on the other side? For example, if you have a verb on one side, then the definition is going to start with to whatever, right? To run, run. That means to move quickly. The English language has that to infinitive before all of its verbs. It's going to show up in the definitions. A noun is going to be described as an object. It's a person, place, or thing, and that is going to come out in its definition. So if you don't recognize all the terms, but you do know, well, that's a noun, it's a thing, this is an adverb, it's an adjective, you can go through and say, well, which definitions match to nouns? Which definitions would match to verbs? And break it down. So instead of matching maybe 12 to 12, you could be matching 3 to 3 in 4 different groups, which again improves your odds if you are forced to guess. You also want to minimize the total amount of time you spend reading so that you have the time on the test. So it's very common to have the terms on the left and the definitions on the right, but it takes more time to read a definition than it does to read a single word. So if you read the term and then read each definition until you find it, that's going to be a lot more reading. But if you read the definition first and then go back to find the term that matches, you could have 10 definitions here averaging 20 words each, and you can have 10 single words. If you read this definition at 20 words, you might read 10 of these before you pick it. Read another 20 words, and then you read 9 of these because you cross them off as you use them, and keep going. You're going to read, say, 200 words on this side, but you're only going to read 10 plus 9 plus 8 or 55 words on that side. That's a 255 word total. If you read every single term before you make your decision, it might be a little bit less. Now, if you do it the other way around, and you read the term and then go through the definitions, and you read the next term and go through the definitions, again, reading everything you haven't picked, well, then you're flipping the math. And that means instead of reading these terms multiple times and the definitions once, you read the terms once and the definitions all of these times. So on the left, yes, you'd be reading 10 words. On the right, you would be reading 55 times 20 words, or 1,100, if you read everything every time. Now, which would you rather read? 255 words or 1,110 words by the time you've added both sides together? This one takes a quarter of the time. So if you have those lengthy definitions, you read the definitions first and you go back and match them to the term. When you're studying, study it both ways. Quiz yourself on the words and remembering what the definitions are. Quiz yourself reading the definitions and matching it back to the words. That'll help you narrow things down. Similarly, you can really shortcut these word counts if you go through and categorize whether things are nouns, verbs, and so on and so forth, and label them right on your test. Do the NV, ADV, AG, ADJ. Do everything you can to make the most efficient use of your time, because most tests have time limits. And if you do things in a more efficient manner, yeah, you can get 85% stressed out and right down to the wire, or you can get 90% because you're not stressed and you've got through everything with time to spare. Time management during the test is going to be a key.